In the middle of horror, surrounded by blood, death, and fear, heroes are made. In this video, we are going to present to you a World War II event that will forever be remembered as peak of soldiers' heroism. The Battle of Saipan. It's no secret that Saipan was a nasty place, culminating in a terrifying Banzai charge by an estimated 5,000 Japanese soldiers. Among American forces, there was our legend Thomas Baker. He grew up the same as any individual did during the pre-World War II years. After that, he enlisted in the United States Army in 1940. A short 4 years later, Baker would find himself in one of the most dangerous battles of the wars, as he pitched against the Japanese forces in the Saipan. Baker had already cemented his legend before a Banzai charge, storming across open terrain under heavy machine gun fire to launch a bazooka into enemy pillbox, killing all 12 enemies in the fortified position. He then took a rear security position as his squad advanced across open terrain, coming across a half dozen concealed enemy soldiers waiting to spring an ambush. Baker shot all 6 dead and moved on with his unit. Several days later, Baker surprised another group of Japanese soldiers. This time it was a dozen soldiers manning a concealed machine gun, laying in wait behind American lines. Baker personally shot all 12 of Japanese soldiers, preventing a devastating ambush. As if those heroics weren't legendary, the then private was on the front lines during that. The experience of Thomas Baker to this point were enough to make the man a decorated war veteran of the Saipan campaign and a respected warrior. But this wasn't a wrestling match where you could tag out when you are done. The Japanese were far from the forfeit the island, and the Baker would have to prove himself once again in the face of the determined enemy. Firmly entrenched in the foxhole, Baker was on a late watch when he came face to face with the largest Japanese Banzai charge of the entire war. With an estimated 5,000 men, the backed up Japanese led a ferocious infantry charge that demonstrated their tenacity and put every American in a pitched battle for their lives. Fueled on sake and the religious tradition of honor, these men would not go easily. Private Baker opened up with his .30 caliber M1 and dropped as many as he could until his ammunition ran out. When the enemy closed up upon his position and continued to assault, Private Baker stood up and swung his M1 like he was a Babe Ruth himself, beating down a dozen of more Japanese attackers. At some point during the battle, Baker was stuck in the stomach with a bullet, and seeing Baker wounded, a fellow soldiers tried to carry him back for medical aid, but was shot and killed in the process. Baker decided no more Americans would die trying to save him. This hardened warrior was determined to fight to the very end, with tenacity superior to that of the opposing forces. As Private Baker began to bleed out after being struck another time with a bullet, others attempted to evacuate him, but he simply asked to be left propped upon against a tree, facing the enemy. His last known words were, "Give me your 45. A fellow soldier complied. A Baker was last seen alive propped against a tree, Colt 1911, fully loaded with 8 rounds in the hand, calmly facing the enemy. When the Americans repelled the Banzai attack and retook the position, Baker was still there. His gun was empty, and there were 8 dead Japanese in front of him." There is no one alive to recount the final moment of Private Baker, but what is beyond a shadow of doubt is that this man fought till the bitter end. Thomas Baker was posthumously awarded a Medal of Honor and promoted to sergeant for his actions on Saipan. With nothing to go on other than the reports of fellow warriors, it became clear that those who knew the battle the best considered this man to be a cut above the rest, as he died protecting his brothers without literal round in the chamber.